Welcome back, everybody. Here we are with the bonus issue for issue 39. And this is where we're going to learn more about the lore behind the scenes type of stuff for Star Wars and not necessarily about building the model. So sit right back and let's get started. Before we get going on the VCX-100 freighter, the Ghost, let's go ahead and take a look at the details and the data for this issue, and we'll go forward from there. All right, so here we are with the details and the data for issue 39. In this issue, we had two videos, and we went through the boarding ramp again. We had a total time of 2 hours and 51 minutes, and it took us 4 captures to do that. Total build time was 2 hours and 51 minutes. Total video recording time was 2 hours and 6 minutes. And final video time was 50 minutes and 19 seconds over those two videos. We did 12 screws in this issue, 9 glued parts. We used primer. That should be primer. Let's just correct that now because typing errors suck. We had primer, insignia white, rust, copper, and desert yellow were the colors that we used. Let's look at our video counter. So our first part was 30 minutes and 45 seconds. Second part was 19 minutes and 34 seconds. And it came out to a total of 15 minutes and 19 seconds. And if we look at our total time, we can see the breakdown of the different videos. So 18 minutes and 18 seconds for the first capture, 2 minutes and 18 seconds, and that was the one where I basically showed the parts over where I was painting them. And then I had one video that was 1 hour and 7 minutes long, and there was a lot of editing done there, I can assure you. And then the final video was 38 minutes and 12 seconds long. I didn't put in the video from the other camera because they were supposedly running simultaneously, so I don't really count that as I don't want that to be counted against the time of the video. So in reality, there's a few minutes off from the capture time. Like there should be maybe an extra 5 minutes or whatever from that second video where the beginning was from the other camera because I didn't actually start recording from my cell phone. So there should be like an extra 5 minutes there or whatever it is, but I didn't feel like going back and figuring out exactly how much time I used from that other video. So it doesn't 100% line up, but total time, video time ends up coming out to be correct. So that is everything in this one. So let's bounce over and take a look at what's in this magazine issue. Okay, so welcome back from that. Hopefully you guys are still getting something out of that. And nobody said you're not, so I'm going to assume that you are. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on the VCX-100 freighter, the Ghost. So let's look at the technical specifications. It is a modified freighter. So it's from the CEC, same as the Millennium Falcon. It's 43.9 meters long, 34.2 meters wide, and 14.5 meters high. I'm not sure how that relates to the Falcon. I'd have to look that up. Maybe I'll put the Falcon's data up here. Okay, so its maximum airspeed is 1,025 kilometers per hour in atmosphere. It can carry up to 5 days worth of consumables. It does have a hyperdrive. Nobody knows what that is since it is customized. And it's got a crew of 4, and it's got a bunch of armament here. So that's good, which, you know, you're going to need that. All right, so if you don't know, this ship is the ship that is used in the show Rebels. And if you're not familiar with Rebels, if you happen to have Disney Plus, I highly recommend checking out Rebels. It's a great show, and they've even used the Ghost in Rogue One, and you even see it in The Rise of Skywalker. So it does have its place. So there you go. The exact origins of the Ghost may never be revealed, but she began her journey as a regular Corellian Engineering Corporation VCX-100 light freighter. These freighters bear some resemblance to the more famous YT series, but there are obvious differences, most notably the central cockpit and the angular deck plan. From above, VCX-100 is more or less a hexagon, with the cockpit in the middle of one flat side and the cluster of four engines opposite with a length of nearly 44 meters. It's almost 10 meters longer than the popular YT 1300. So there you go. It's almost 10 meters longer. At some point, the Twi'lek captain and freedom fighter Hera Syndulla acquired the Ghost. Hera knew how to pilot her ship past Imperial blockades and other obstacles uh, like nobody else. In her quest to find a crew to take on the Empire, Hera recruited 5 other Spectres, including astromech droid C-110P, nicknamed Chopper. The old C-1 served as Hera's main mechanic and knew the ship's workings even better than Captain Hera. In fact, Chopper made so many modifications to the Ghost that he was sometimes the only one who could keep her running. So let's have a look at here. Signature modulator. So the Ghost got her name from a special and advanced sensor scrambler that could effectively trick sensors used by the Empire and others. Not to be mistaken for a cloaking device, the illegal signature modulator tricked the Imperials into registering her as a totally different ship. When leaving or returning to Lothal, the Ghost would simply transmit different transponder codes, such as Starbird or Tontine, authorized to travel between Boz Pity and Lothal. Adjusting the signal to sneak past Imperial patrols was one of Chopper's specialties. To learn a little bit about Hera Syndulla, it was no surprise that Hera took a stand against the Empire. As a child, she had witnessed her father, Cham Syndulla, leading the Twi'lek resistance against the CIS on Ryloth, and later against the Empire, so rebellious blood streamed through her veins. She grew up to be an ace pilot and a great shot with the Ghost's weapons. So, if you watched the Clone Wars, you would have seen Cham Syndulla in that at least once or twice. There's also the book Lords of the Sith, where I believe Cham Syndulla is part of that as well. So he is very well known, kind of in the outside the movies type stuff. And in fact, in Rogue One, when they're on Yavin, they're in the background. You can hear them say General Syndulla, and although we don't know for sure, but we're going to assume that Hera by this time is a general in the rebellion. So, especially since the Ghost shows up during that fight on Scarif, the planet where they were trying to pull the plans from for the Death Star. So the Ghost shows up there, and so because of the fact that uh, uh, they mention Hera or General Syndulla, then that makes sense. Also, in the background, you can see Chopper rolling by in there, so that adds a little bit of interest as well. So, ready for anything, and this is going to really give you kind of like a breakdown of what Rebels is all about. So, um, it's talking quite a bit about the ship itself. So she's armed with forward and dorsal laser turrets, and also sported several insignia with unknown origins. The Ghost wasn't just transport, she was actual home to Hera's crew, although the ship was far from a luxury yacht. The cockpit of the Ghost had 4 seats, including the pilot and co-pilots. If necessary, the pilot could also control the forward turret cannon. Directly behind the cockpit was a passageway leading to the private quarters of the crew. Hera, Kanan Jarrus, and Sabine Wren all had their own cabins, but Zeb Aurelius grudgingly had to share his with the young Ezra Bridger. Much to the delight of mischievous Chopper, the freighter also possessed a shower and refresher. So it's important to know Ezra because if you're following the Mandalorian show, um, they brought in Ahsoka, and Ahsoka asked about Thrawn, and there is a connection there between Ezra and Thrawn, and so because they're coming out with an Ahsoka series, I'm there's I'm speculating, and there's a lot of speculation that part of that Ahsoka series could be her trying to trace down Thrawn in a sense to find Ezra. So Ezra may end up being in the Ahsoka series, so that could be important. A ladder in the passageway led to the dorsal laser cannon turret. Two other corridors linked to the port and starboard docking rings, via which the Ghost could attach herself to other ships. Next was the passenger area with seats and an engineering station, a table that could be used to display holographic messages or games like Dejeric, a peculiar-looking wooden chair, family heirloom of Zeb's, was also kept in this area. The ship's galley led off to the common area, while the kitchen was basic but sufficient for the needs of the hungry crew, except Zeb on occasions, because Zeb, he was kind of the Chewbacca of the crew. He was an alien, and he um, was kind of brute force type of guy. So he was bigger, and he would have used a lot, eaten a lot more. Hidden surprise, on the lower decks, the freighter possessed a moderately sized cargo hold that was large enough to store some freight for their crew's speeder bikes. The Ghost had one additional cargo hold in each of its corners, and if necessary could also pick up magnetically sealed containers underneath the hull. The ship's boarding ramp led straight into the main cargo hold, which also featured a small balcony giving access to enter the front turret gunner's station. One of multiple ladders in the ship that allowed easy passage to other levels went from the cargo hold to the cockpit. Another ladder was used to reach the hidden surprise aboard the Ghost, its secondary shuttlecraft, the Phantom. This Aquilian shuttle fighter could dock in either direction on top of the Ghost and was used for supply runs or special missions that required stealth. The Phantom not only added its dorsal laser cannon to the Ghost, but when it docked backwards, its forward laser cannons augmented the Ghost's firepower even more. So Flying Fortress, this is our behind the scenes part of this, where the Falcon's cockpit had echoes of the American B-29 Super Fortress bomber. The Ghost was inspired by an earlier U.S. warplane, as executive producer Dave Filoni, which if you're following The Mandalorian, Dave Filoni is very involved with that as well. I think he's an associate producer or something like that on there, as well as he's directed a couple episodes. It's pretty much a cross between a B-17 bomber cockpit centered on the Millennium Falcon. The Boeing B-17 was known as the Flying Fortress because of its multiple guns, including nose, dorsal, and chin turrets, all echoed in the Ghost, which could defend it against attacks from any direction. The style of Hera's attire also harkens back to World War II with her goggles, headphones, and orange flight suit. So there we go. This is very reminiscent of World War II. There's her goggles and her headphones, or her ear muffs, or whatever you want to call them. So the goggles can come down over her eyes, and she doesn't have to take off her headphones. So there you go. Wookiee Rescue. So this was one of the very first episodes. Might even have been the first episode. Maybe the second one. So learning that some Wookiees were being taken to the Kessel as slaves for the mines, Lothal rebels decided to rescue them. As the Wookiees were taken from the Imperial transport, the Ghost dived on the stormtroopers with its guns firing and dropped a raiding party who freed the Wookiees. However, the mission turned out to be a trap. The Ghost was engaged by TIE fighters, and Imperial reinforcements poured into the attack, forcing the rebels and the Wookiees to take cover. Even as Syndulla engaged the TIE fighters, Jarrus told her to perform a 22 pickup using the Ghost's to grab a cargo container on a flyby. To give the rebels and the Wookiees an opportunity to escape into the container, Jarrus ignited his lightsaber, which this was a big thing because you didn't know he was a Jedi at the time. So he ignited his lightsaber, revealing himself to be a Jedi, held the Imperials to a standoff. So there you go. So that's learning about the Ghost and in some way the Rebel crew. So now we're going to look at the Hoth Asteroid Belt. So there's not a whole lot that goes along with this. Basically, it's going to talk about um, the sizes. The bodies can vary greatly in size, ranging from a few dozen meters across to several hundred meters in size. The much larger ones, that's where you're going to see the space slugs and the what are they called? Uh, Minox. Yeah, yeah. So the asteroid belt was very rich in all kinds of minerals and stuff like that, even including like water and whatnot. So a lot of companies tried to um, invest in trying to mine these, but because it was very far out of the way, it was very difficult to really make it profitable, apparently. Um, but so yeah, so that's one of the things with it. And like I said, it has the life forms thing. So asteroid field's very high in mineral content, and the presence of some organic materials, including frozen water, meant that it is possible for creatures to live within and on asteroids. Many of the larger bodies were inhabited by the giant worm-like creatures known as space slugs and by Minox, two of the few species that could thrive in the vacuum of space. So one of the things that some of the larger asteroids could do is have a very uh, minor atmosphere, which is one of the reasons why like the Minox could live there and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of goes through that. Talks about the space slug here, so that's I don't see where that's. I mean, we all get the picture on that. So behind the scenes, the idea of entering an asteroid field to escape the enemy was not new to The Empire Strikes Back, and in fact appeared in a rough draft of the original film, where General Skywalker enters the Norton asteroid belt to elude Imperial forces. Prior to the theatrical release of Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back in May 1980, the Hoth asteroid belt asteroid field first appeared simultaneously in Donald F. Glutt's novelization of the film and the storybook adaptation by Shep Stenman, both released a month earlier. Designers at Industrial Light and Magic used every trick available to bring the chase through the Hoth asteroid field sequence to the screen with at least 25 different visual elements. Among these, was an asteroid box composed of dozens of small rocks suspended from rotating wires in an effort to convey the impression of a massive asteroid field. Closer asteroids were presented by pieces of polystyrene coated in plaster, as well as at least one potato. So that's one of the things that's been out there for a long time is they used a potato, and so this is not disputing that at all. All of the elements were shot separately against a blue screen and composited using an optical printer. Animatics of the chase created by ILM's animation department allowed editors to more easily coordinate the timing of the scene. So there you go. Cargo handling. So this, again, is kind of a section that's not terribly interesting. I mean, we understand, we've talked about the cargo elevators and all that kind of stuff, so we've kind of gone through a good portion of this. So basically, the YT-1300, it was very versatile in the cargo that it could load and carry, and how fast it could get rid of the cargo and load it and all that kind of stuff. So Set dressings. Art director Roger Christian's set dressings for the Falcon extended beyond fixtures and fittings made of aircraft scrap. Corners of the hold are stacked with old containers such as old flight cases, ammunition boxes, and distinctive screw-top polystyrene drums, all of which were dirtied to look as if they have knocked around out of the way spaceports for years. So there you go. So that's what we're looking at here in this picture. And actually, I've got this picture, so I'll throw that up here so you can see that. And this section here is going to talk about the freight elevator. Like I said, we've kind of gone through that as well. And so yeah, that's all about the cargo hauling of things. So that is everything in this issue. Um, Not a whole lot. There's no additional parts or anything back here. So in issue 40, um, we've already got these parts, and I've already put them together, and I've showed that to you already. So in the issue 40, we got these parts. We're going to get some more um, plating, and then we're going to get our first parts here for our gun turrets section. So that will be coming up after issue 40, I'm guessing. Because I know issue 40, we are going to be attaching this to the rest of the framework. So we'll have the entire lower frame completed. So that should be interesting as well. Of course, that's not including the mandibles, just the dish part. So hopefully you guys are still enjoying this, and I want to thank everybody for watching. And I'm going to steal something from Pat McAfee. He's a former punter for the Indianapolis Colts. He does a podcast 5 days a week, and it's usually football, but he includes other sports and all that kind of stuff. Great show if you're into that kind of thing. Very funny. But he's got a line that he likes to say, and it's "Be a friend, tell a friend." So if you like what you're seeing here, be a friend and tell a friend. Spread the word and let other people know about these videos, and maybe that will, uh, maybe they'll find something that they're enjoying as well. So I would appreciate that. I appreciate some thumbs up, and of course, comments are always welcome. All right. I don't often advertise that kind of stuff, but I feel like it's something I should probably start doing. So it feels a little weird, and it's probably a little clunky, and I'll get a little bit better at it. So with that, I'll say thank you, and I'll talk to you later. May the force be with you always.